The burglar of mock drafts is back. Let's go. Dane Brugler of The Athletic, the king of mock drafts. And you know what? If I had to burgle anything, it would definitely be a Dane Brugler mock draft. Let's freaking go. And it's not just one round, it's two. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right into this mock draft and mock the mock. So I read the instructions and doing the little Apple Intelligence sort of thing, right? I'm going to summarize this as quickly as I can. It basically says he has the updated rankings, the top 24 teams, and then so on. And then also with this quarterback class, there are a lot of scouts, GMs right now that are very unsure, but he does think that teams are going to have to trade up in desperation for quarterbacks. And that's just the way it is because there are a lot of quarterback hungry teams every single year, it seems. Let's get into the actual mock draft, though. The Tennessee Titans go Cam Ward. Miami Hurricane, formerly of Incarnate Ward, transferred over to Washington State and then transferred to Miami. He has been phenomenal this season. I still question some of the decision-making, and also you look at the play at Miami. He had all day to throw behind that good Miami offensive line. He didn't have to deal with a ton of elite pass rushes or elite defenses throughout the entirety of the season. I think his toughest test was probably the Florida State game where, you know, yardage totals were his worst, but he still looked pretty dang good in that one. I think that he is a really solid quarterback, and I like the progression he has made throughout his career, so I can't deny that. I mean, he really has honed. He's worked on his craft. He's an accurate quarterback. He's got that playmaking ability that you look for. I'm just a little bit, it's tough for me to take him at number 1 overall over a Travis Hunter, over a Abdul Carter, Mason Graham, etc. Those guys to me are way better prospects in what I think, floor-wise compared to Cam Ward. But as Dane Brugler was talking about, you got to get a quarterback. So if you're Tennessee, you can't rock into next season with just Will Levis and Mason Rudolph and expect everything to be okay. And here's another reason you come to take a look at Dane Brugler. He says, Ward's upside is comparable. Scouts have called him to Steve McNair. Wouldn't that be music to the ears? Absolutely. I love that. If he can reach those upside, that would be fantastic. They certainly need some exciting times in Tennessee. Got a new stadium coming up as well. So if you can find that franchise quarterback going into that new stadium, it would be cool. On to the Browns, number 2, Abdul Carter, edge rusher, Penn State. Seems like a Andrew Berry type of move, and especially if you have to trade Myles Garrett, then that makes a ton of sense. You put him opposite of Myles Garrett, though, yes, that would be very, very scary. Now, I still like Travis Hunter a little bit more for the Browns personally, but at the same time, it's 1A, 1B. I'd get one of those guys. Either which one I'd be happy with. I wouldn't reach for Shedeur Sanders. I also think his arm strength, Cleveland's not the ideal scenario for Shedeur Sanders. So if you go get Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter, maybe get a developmental quarterback on day 2, pick up a Kirk Cousins in free agency, even though he doesn't have the greatest arm strength either, but maybe him and Stefanski can get back together again. I just like going with Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter with one of these top picks. So this is an A move. Oh man, and this is a shocker. Travis Hunter. Speaking of the myth, the legend, and Travis Hunter, the dual threat two-way player, he's going to the Giants at number 3. They skip out on the quarterback. Let's see what he has to say. If the Giants are unable to move up a reward, would they like Shedeur Sanders enough to draft him? In this scenario, they don't and opt to go best player available. Hopefully Travis Hunter can play quarterback, but I actually like this one a lot. I would say you go out, maybe you can get Sam Darnold, probably want him to go to New York. Maybe you can get Kirk Cousins, lure him over here, figure something out, possibly with a trade too. There are a lot of things that still have to go on this offseason. There are some maneuvers that you can do. So that's why I'm not like, you have to draft a quarterback here. Man, oh man, wouldn't it be something if they didn't get a quarterback at number 3? But look, there are other options out there. Maybe they can trade for somebody. Maybe they can pick up Kirk Cousins like we were talking about earlier. You got Russell Wilson out there. There are things that they can do. And Brian Daboll and Joe Schoen also might say themselves, a rookie quarterback may put us in a difficult situation because throughout the years, you've seen a lot of times where you have a rookie head coach, you have a rookie quarterback and a head coach who's really in that last stint of his possible career. And that doesn't save him by drafting a rookie quarterback. They end up firing that coach after the rookie season. Look at Caleb Williams, Matt Eberflus, and you can look down the list on what that happens. So Brian Daboll might say, look, let's just go get a veteran because it gives us the best chance to win and actually get to the playoffs this next season. So I wouldn't be shocked if that ends up happening for the New York Giants. You go get Travis Hunter, who's going to be a dual threat capability guy. He plays cornerback full-time and then as a part-time wide receiver for this offense with Malik Neighbors. So he can fill out Darius Slayton role for them in that offense, but also giving them a true number one boundary playmaker, which is something that this team really doesn't have a whole ton there. So you added him in with Dave Banks and then Andrew Phillips. You got Cordell Flott as a dude who can play inside out. He'd be your backup cornerback. I like that. I think that'd be a really good pick, actually, for the Giants. This is one that, if he was on the board, that's the way I would go. On to the New England Patriots, Air McMillan, Tetaroa McMillan, T-Mac, whatever you want to call him. But he's certainly going to help out this receiving core for Drake, May. They need a weapon. I think it's tackle, it's wide receiver. I wouldn't rule out, though, any of these other guys. Mason Graham, definitely in play for this pick, in my opinion, who's still on the board. If Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter falls to them, then that absolutely, that's where I would go. I don't think one of those guys will be available. It's too early to tell. With that all being said, I think T-Mac would be a fantastic pick. It's tough to find wide receivers, too, in free agency a lot of times. You can find some offensive tackles and some offensive linemen a little easier, in my opinion, but finding those wide receivers, those number one type of wide receivers in free agency is so tricky, not to mention the money you have to pay. And T. Higgins more than likely will get hit with a franchise tag or re-signed. That's at least the way I see it as of right now. Maybe things will change. They could trade for him. That's definitely a possibility. But I do like this one pick. If I had to bet my money on where do the New England Patriots go in the actual draft, this would be my betting pick. I don't like to bet, but that's what I would choose. On to the Jags. Will Johnson, cornerback, Michigan. This is one you're going to see throughout the entirety of the process. So you know that they're not going to go that route, right? When you mock a pick over and over and over again. It's like, then they don't end up going because then teams know, let's jump in front of them or let's do this, you know what I'm saying? But Will Johnson here at number 5, personally, I think this is a little too early for Johnson. Actually, you know what? I agree with that with Dane Brugler. I personally am higher on Benjamin Morrison. Johnson, I think he's a little bit of an overrated prospect, and I don't want to make that sound horrible, okay, because that does sound bad. You're like, what are you talking about, G-Sling? Will Johnson's a stud. He is a good football player. But relative to how his hype is to his tape, I don't think his tape is top 3, top 5 worthy. I think he's going to be a very good football player, though. And so let's not discount that. He's somebody that I think is going to be in the league for a very long time and could have a couple all-pro seasons here and there. I just don't think he's going to be a top 5 corner year in, year out sort of guy. Now, you come back to me and say, you were completely wrong, and I wouldn't hate that. Will Johnson certainly has all the tools and the makeup to be that guy, at least be Patrick Surtain. I think that could be certainly somebody in the cards for Will Johnson. And for the Jags, you get him on opposite of Tyson Campbell, Jerry Jones in the slot. I think that would be really, really good for their second. Ronald Darby could be more of a swing corner for this team. Really good move, though, for the Jaguars. Don't discount Will Johnson. He's a very good football player. On to the Raiders, Shedeur Sanders, the Buffalo, man, gumming over here to the Vegas Raiders. Maybe they go get Deion Sanders, the head coach, as well. I know he's getting rumors of Dallas. What if Dallas comes over and, does Dak Prescott trade or something like that? Oh, my gosh. If that were to happen, NFL will go crazy, man. Just imagine the media and the amount of money the NFL would make. I'm sure they're just saying, please, Dallas, do it. We can make Roger Goodell's getting on the phone with Jerry Jones. We want to make so much money. We'll give you part ownership in the NFL at that point. But Shedeur Sanders seems like a very likely pick. It's a dream scenario for both sides if you think about it. Shedeur Sanders in Vegas, exactly where it seems like he wants to go. Bring that prime time logo to Vegas. You get your quarterback, hopefully, of the future. And the rest is made in history with Tom Brady. On to the New York Jets, Mason Graham. I love this move as a Jets fan. Let's go get ourselves a stud interior pass rusher next to Quentin Williams. And he's also going to be a really good run defender next to Quentin Williams. This is probably what we actually need more or less. And Mason Graham can do that. He just knows how to get off blockers. He's super disruptive as a pass rusher and a playmaker to get in the backfield quick. Really do like Mason Graham. This would be a dream pick for me. I hope Mason Graham could fall to number 7 for the New York Jets. Carolina, Jalen Walker. Walker played off the ball linebacker in Athens and spent most of his time dropping into coverage or defending the run. And with his length, power, and explosive movements, he has the best rushing, the passer ability. And he's a native of North Carolina. Interesting. I did not know that, but that is good news to hear and something interesting because Jalen Walker certainly would provide some much-needed pass rush for this Carolina Panther team. I still am higher on James Pierce Jr. That's just me. Jalen Walker scares me a little bit. I'm not saying he gives me Isaiah Simmons vibes, but I think that he's a guy that is just strictly an athlete right now. He needs to develop hand counters. He needs to actually know how to rush the passer more consistently. There's not a whole ton of bull rushing, power, things like that going against tackles. He just wins with speed a lot of times. So that is certainly something that is a little concerning for me. But when you have rare athletic explosiveness like he has, that does give me a little bit more, okay, I feel good about this guy. It's kind of like the Chop Robinson vibes, where he's just got so much athleticism, he's going to succeed. And, get stronger at the next level, get those peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, as Vach Lombardi would say. They need pass rush, clearly. I would still go Benjamin Morrison, though, at that point, personally. That's just what I would do. On to the New Orleans Saints, Malachi Starks. They go get themselves. I like this one. The Saints are such an interesting team to draft for because they have so many areas that this team could really look at, especially on the defense side of the ball, because they're getting a lot older on the defense. Tyrann Mathieu, his play at this point, too, is kind of taking a sharp drop-off. He's still a good player, but I do think that they could add somebody else into that room. Jordan Howden is a solid player, but once again, they could use another piece in that secondary. They could use more help on that defensive line if they lose Chase Young in free agency. Linebackers getting a little bit older now. So there's a couple areas that they could look on that defense. Offensive line is still one of the biggest areas in need. Quarterback, right? Another weapon. I think tight end could be something they look at. Tyler Warren, possibly. But yeah, it's a solid pick. Malachi Starks. How Mickey Loomis maybe just going with a really solid pick to help out. And on to the Chicago Bears. Offensive line. I mean, we don't really need to say a whole ton here. But the only thing would be interesting is Josh Simmons over Will Campbell and Kelvin Banks Jr., Josh Connolly. I'm okay with Josh Simmons as the first offensive lineman off the board. His tape was as good as anybody's, if not the best in college football this season. Now, that injury is going to be something they're going to have to get some medical feedback from. His draft stock will be in limbo until the combine. Limbo. But anyway, I like this one. I think it's a good move for the Chicago Bears. You could even stick Simmons in at guard early on. I feel like he's got the demeanor and the strength to play guard. I'm not saying that's easy to do, to just go from tackle to guard, and not that he needs to do that either, because I think he can be full on a blindside protector for Caleb Williams. It just comes down, you got Braxton Jones, you get your best 5 offensive linemen out there. He could be the future left tackle, though. You could end up letting Jones walk in free agency, which I do actually think would make sense, because he's probably going to still get paid pretty well in free agency. And I don't know if I'm willing to pay like that mid-tier, that top-end money like that. So maybe you let him go after the offseason. Josh Simmons ends up moving to that left tackle spot for the long haul. And then Karan Amagaji, you can keep developing him as either a swing tackle or in the inside at guard. Overall, good pick for the Bears. On to the 49ers, Armin Embu, the highest I have seen Embu selected. Oh my gosh. Based on the players expected to be available in this range, there's a decent chance the 49ers use this pick to address the trenches, offense or defensive line. Membu is an incredibly underrated. The way he plays, exceptional control, athleticism, and finish. I would personally go Will Campbell. That's just where I'm at. I like Embu. I did a scouting report on him, and he's somebody I think has tremendous upside with his strength and his athleticism and his profile there. He's got good length, too, for his size. He's only 6'3", but I think he's got like 34-inch arms. So he certainly could play tackle, but I do like him a little bit better at guard, at least right now. I think his technique on the outside with his hand placement, he does get a little lunge happy, too. He kind of reminds me a little bit of a Kelvin Banks type of player. Both of those guys, I like to move inside to guard. So that's why I would lean towards more of a Will Campbell, who I see as a tackle at the next level. And I would stick him over to right tackle, as he has experience in his high school days playing at right tackle throughout his career there in high school. So that's the way I would lean. It's not a terrible pick. They need to invest in the trenches. On to the Cowboys. Luther Burton III. Self-explanatory. Cowboys need another weapon. Luther Burton III is like a running back after the catch. And what a skill set between CeeDee Lamb and Burton there on the outside for Dak Prescott. Got to add another weapon. Will Campbell to the Miami Dolphins. I love this move here for them. They could use him inside a guard or a tackle. He could compete with Patrick Paul for the long haul, but you could stick him in at left guard day number 1. No matter what, like Will Campbell, he's just going to be a good football player. I doubt this guy, is a bust, barring some major injuries. He's just going to be a good player. So Miami, they need to invest in the trenches. And here's a pairing that's going to be Romeo and Juliet style all throughout this draft process. The big fella, Tyler Warren, the big playmaker, should I call him, over at Penn State, the jack of all trades, man. And Chris Ballard, what he covets, those big testing numbers, right? And I think Tyler Warren's going to test pretty dang well. I don't know if he's going to test elite, though. We shall see how Tyler Warren tests. Indianapolis, they need a playmaker in that tight end room. And if there's any playmaker in this draft, Warren is definitely one of those guys. I can't wait to see how Harold Fanning tests. That's going to be a big one, man. He's somebody I think is going to rise up into the first round when it's all said and done. After going through some of his footage and tape, I don't know how he makes it out of the first round. On to the Atlanta Falcons, Shamar Stewart. I'm not as high on Stewart. I like him still as an athletic day 2 guy to develop. This is a guy that could develop into a Cameron Jordan type of prospect. He has those elite traits, the athleticism, the burst, the length, The size, 6'6", 285. Crazy burst off the edge for a guy his size. It's just, he doesn't know how to get off blocks. Like, and it's not just knowing how to get off blocks. You also have to have the awareness to what's going on. I've seen him multiple times where he's just fighting the offensive tackle to push him back. And then a ball carrier goes right by his shoulder blade and he just doesn't even look. So that's a little concerning with Shedeur Stewart. He is a good football player and he certainly would give you a two-way versatility. I could see him playing as more of like a 5-tech and a 3-4 defensive front. So that could be something here if they're not sold on what's his name from Ohio State, Zach Harrison, then maybe you rock in Shedeur Stewart into that defensive line. Overall, I personally would go James Pierce Jr. or even Mike Green. On to the Cardinals here. Derek Harmon, interior defensive lineman for Oregon. He's a really good football player. I'm a Ducks fan, and you can't help but notice Derek Harmon out there on that defensive line. Also, shout out Jamari Caldwell. I think he's a good football player too. Good run defender. And Harmon is a very, very nice pass rusher and also disruptive in the backfield. Got to be a better finisher, but I do think he'll be a nice player for the Cardinals. I would lean towards more of probably like a Kenneth Grant or a Tyleik Williams type on that front. But no matter what, like, Harmon would be a good player too. I still like Harmon. I just like him more in the back end of the first round if possible. So that's kind of my view on this. All these interior defense linemen after Mason Graham, they kind of fluctuate depending on your rankings, and they all have a lot of upside too. Bengals, Mikael Williams, the edge rusher, Georgia. They could certainly use another pass rusher. I love the idea of getting Chase Young in free agency. Man, I just would love that. You bring him over here in Cincinnati. That would be a cool one, cool addition there with Trey Hendrickson. However, if they don't go in free agency, the money situation, and you know how Duke Tobin and that Bengals front office works, they just don't really give out a whole ton of money. So you go out in the draft, you go get another pass rusher. Mikael Williams definitely fits that, especially if Matt Eberflus is coming into town. That could be somebody they end up getting with their defensive coordinator. I actually like that a lot, but Mikael Williams would be a really nice addition for that pass rush. Safety, Malachi Starks was available. I like offensive line as well, like a guard. They need a guard big time. Tyler Booker could be in play here too for this team. A lot of areas that they could really look at for this Bengals team. And the top priorities, though, fixing this defense. So Mikael Williams hopefully could do that. He's a little raw, and, I like Mikael. I do. It's just, I personally would still go after James Pierce Jr., which we'll see here in a minute. Kelvin Banks Jr. to the Seattle Seahawks. Great pick. Really good pick. If he's on the board here at 18, I'm running to the table. This is a no-brainer because he could also be a swing tackle for them. I know he doesn't have right tackle experience. However, I think he's somebody that I feel better about at the guard position with the way he plays, his overall play style. With some of those lunge-happy abilities, like you put him inside, it's going to mitigate some of those issues. And also, he is a very powerful guy. So I think you put him inside the guard, he's going to help out this run game a lot, whichever offensive coordinator they end up getting, they need to prioritize adding a nice run blocker and somebody that can also pass protect on the interior. They need to fix this offensive line. So John Snyder, you got to get this offensive line together. This is a no-brainer pick. On to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, James Pierce Jr., A+. I mean, they need more pass rush. James Pierce Jr. is going to be a huge addition for this team with his athletic burst and speed, his length, his size, just needs to get bigger. Like the biggest thing I would say with James Pierce Jr., you just got to get bigger. And at the NFL level, you get those big stakes, those big Cowboys, man, and we'll be good to go. And then on to the Denver Broncos. This is just a dream come true for Denver. If Ashton Jeanty is on the board, I'm running that card in. This is exactly what this team needs, is a dynamic runner that can actually ring off a big play, something that they've not had at the running back position all season long. This is a great move, and keep them close to home too. Love it, love it, love it, love it. On to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Emeka Egbuka. They need another weapon in this offense. It's clear. Now, you will get Roman Wilson back next season. Should be extremely helpful for this Pittsburgh Steelers team. But at the same time, Emeka Egbuka is just, he's always open. He's reliable. Not always, but you know what I'm saying? Like, he's Mr. Available. And he may not be the elite top tier wide receiver, but I think he's very, very unlikely to be a bust candidate when it's all said and done. I think he's going to be an immediate impact player for this football team, barring injury, and probably an 800 to 1,200 yard type of guy already in his rookie season. Like, I think he could do that for an NFL team. So Pittsburgh, I love that. You're getting a guy that on and off the field, you know he's going to put the work in, the time, the effort. He's got all those things. He's a tough-nosed blocker, too. If Arthur Smith is still the OC, he's going to value that. Chargers go Colston Loveland, tight end, the Harbaugh connection. And they clearly need a playmaker that can catch the ball at the tight end position. So Colston Loveland, give you a reliable weapon. He's a very good route runner. Easy pick there, A+. Packers, Tyleik Williams, interior defensive line, the Ohio State University A+ pick here as well. They've been looking for that one tech, that zero, for so long now. It's like, go get Tyleik Williams. You solve those issues. He's another one of those super high floor prospects in this draft class. And you know what? I'm okay with that. In this draft class, I am really comfortable just getting a Tyleik Williams at the end of the first round and calling it a day. I think he's going to be a plug-and-play guy and be a great rotation there with Kenny Brooks and Kenny Clark, Carl Brooks, and Devontae Wyatt. Getting the names mixed up here. On to the Vikings, Caleb Johnson, the Iowa running back. Yeah, they need a good running back. And it was clear as day they couldn't run the football consistently. Akers had one big run. Besides that, it's been through a problem throughout the entirety of the season, especially when Aaron Jones is not healthy for them. And he's on that one-year deal. He's a free agent. Aaron Jones, really good running back, but they need a between-the-tackles runner. Caleb Johnson is fantastic. They also need some guards, so Tyler Booker could be in play here too. Defense, they got a lot of holes they're going to have to fill, so they'll have to go and take a look at some of those, especially if they lose Flores as their defensive coordinator. They're going to have to address some of those secondary and interior defensive line issues. Tyler Booker, a great pick here for the Houston Texans. The only question I have is, do they want to keep Titus Howard in at guard for long haul, because they did draft Blake Fisher, and I expected that they want him to be the long-term right tackle. And in Shrugs being the center, I imagine, for the long haul. You got Jared Patterson, who's a good solid center as well. Not an elite center or anything like that. You could upgrade. Obviously, Shrugs, I think, is more of that upside guy on that interior. Shaq Mason is getting a little bit older now, so maybe Booker fills in for him for the long haul. I guess that would make sense too. So you slide him into one of those guard positions, which is a big area for this team. They've had struggles to running the ball consistently versus those top-tier teams. So adding a guy like Tyler Booker is going to add some force. He's a perfect addition for them and whatnot. It's just always tricky with the Houston Texans on what route do you want to go. And here's a pick that I absolutely love. Josh Connolly Jr., Oregon left tackle. He is a great player, and I feel like he's underrated in this draft class. He's starting to get a little more hype, but I'd take him top 15 and feel really good about it. Connolly, the way he moves is incredible. McVay and his offense. I know he's got more towards a little bit more power in their offensive line and whatnot, gap. But I think Connolly Jr. is just too good not to take. You stick him at the right tackle of the future for Rob Havenstein. Or if you don't bring back Aldrick Jackson, then it's Josh Connolly left tackle, no problem. Plug and play right there. I think he's going to be a very good football player. Just needs to get a little stronger. Other than that, though, I think he's a really good football player. On to the Commanders. Mike Green, the machine. Marshall. I love this pick. A+. This is one of my favorite picks actually so far in this draft. If you lose Dante Fowler in free agency, he might get paid somewhere else. Mike Green would be just a plug-and-play, slide in. He could be your next 10-sack guy over and over again with Armstrong. This is a great, great pick for the Commanders. I love what Green brings to the table with his athleticism and his burst off the edge. And he's also one of the better pass rushers in terms of pass rush moves. He's got so many at his disposal. Can't wait to see him at the Senior Bowl. He could easily be a top 15 pick with a good Senior Bowl showing. Let's go on. Ooh, what's this? 4 of my guys in this draft class. Guys that I'm guessing I'll be higher on than most based on the tape. Armin Embu, Mike Green, Carson Schlesinger. Yes, I need to do his full scouting report on him. And Jacob Parrish, another guy I really, really liked in the summer. He's a guy that's going to be a slot-only dude, but he's really good. He's feisty, man. He is feisty even though he's small. I agree with all 4 of those guys. They're very good players. I'm not that high on Embu as he is, but those other 3 guys, I definitely think that is very fair. Donovan Jackson, tackle/guard. He's a guard, in my opinion, at the next level, and that's fine. Baltimore Ravens, that's what they need. Now, they could lose Ronnie Staley in free agency, so we'll see how that all plays out. Maybe you get a tackle instead, but Donovan Jackson would be an excellent addition at one of their guard positions, which could use an upgrade. Their offensive line's done a good job, and Lamar Jackson's part of that because he's Houdini and gets out of pressures and stuff like that and helps out the run game because it's like linebackers, they have to take Lamar Jackson on these RPOs, but Donovan Jackson would add even more mauling ability to that run game. On to the Bills, Javon Revel, really good pick. With that torn ACL, we'll see how all the medicals check out with him. But for the Buffalo Bills, you go pair him along with Christian Benford on the outside. That would be a really good cornerback duo. They need some more secondary help. Maybe even a safety could be a big need for them too this offseason. Playoff Eagles, JT Tuimoloau, the edge rusher from the Ohio State University. Excellent pick. Excellent. I love this one here for the Eagles. He makes so much sense because of the way he plays and his play style. Somebody that can give you inside-out versatility, but at the same time, I could certainly see him filling in for Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham in that role as that strong side edge on that defense, somebody that can drop back into coverage. I almost would welcome him to drop back in coverage, or at least in Vic Fangio's scheme, I think he's an ideal pick for this team with those instincts that he has as a playmaker too. Probably the best in this class. My only knock on this would be that Tuimoloau, I just don't know if he has tremendous athletic burst, okay? And that's something at the next level I do think caps his upside a little bit. At the same time, I just think he's a technician. I think he's going to be a good football player for whoever drafts him. I know he's got the work ethic. This guy, nothing but raves there from the Ohio State campus and the coaching staff on JT Tuimoloau. On to the Chiefs, Kenneth Grant, interior defensive lineman. Great pick. I mean, oh my gosh. You put him next to Chris Jones, and that's insanity, man. What? Kenneth Grant, how did he fall to 31 at this point? Yeah, I mean, he is a little bit raw, but the big man has got so much talent. And you put him, like I said, next to Chris Jones. It's just that enforcer on the interior, that run guy, and he's also going to be a disruptive one tech. I love it. Great pick for the Chiefs, man. I really like it. Tylee Williams, Kenneth Grant, those are like my ideal selections in that first round for the Kansas City Chiefs. Find that number 2 guy next to Chris Jones. They've been looking for it for quite a minute. The Detroit Lions go Nick Gordon. Great pick. Great pick for the Detroit Lions. You're getting just a really rock-solid player. He's strong. He's powerful. He's not the most athletic guy, but he does give you some two-way ability on their defensive line. Long haul with Josh Pascal. I think that's a great rotation there. I mean, Za'Darius is still under contract, but Nick Gordon gives you some more talent with Aiden Hutchinson. On to round number 2 we go, and we'll kind of go through some of these picks a little quicker. I don't want to keep you too long here or whatnot. You're like, oh, let's go, come on. But Cleveland, Ariante Ursary, they need a left tackle. It makes a lot of sense, especially Jedrick Wills. He's probably not coming back. DeJuan Jones, though, right? Will he end up being the left tackle of the future? I'm not sold on it, but at the same time, if he can get in shape, I think there's a real good chance that he at least is one of their tackles of the future. Now, Jack Conklin is still under contract, depending on how they do. They've had a lot of injuries there, so tackle/offensive line, like even if Ariante Ursary, because Bentonio might not be back, especially if they don't get this quarterback situation in control, then they might want to, then Bentonio might want to retire. So Ariante Ursary could play guard for them too. I actually kind of like him at guard. Limit some of those footwork issues on the, little flexibility issues. Giants, Jalen Milroe. They go quarterback in the second round. I love it. Take the swing, right? Some people will say go Jackson Dart, and I'm okay with that too. Jackson Dart's got a lot of developmental upside. Both of those guys are developmental dudes, but we'll see at the Senior Bowl, okay? Because I think we're going to get a lot more clarity between Milroe and guys like Jackson Dart, etc. I think Will Howard's going to be there at the Senior Bowl. Don't quote me on that. It depends on, he should be there, right? I imagine he should be there. I already forgot the list. I just looked this morning at the list, but yeah, I'll have to take a look at that. And then on to the Tennessee Titans here. They go the captain, Jack Sawyer, the Ohio State University. Saved the day, won them that game versus Texas in a way. I mean, finished it off with that big run, touchdown sack, strip sack, and he has been really, really solid the entirety of this season. He just is. He's a quality run defender, and he can get after the quarterback. He's not the most bendy guy or not athletic dude, but he certainly has enough burst off the edge and somebody that I just doubt. He's another one of those guys, just like JT Tuimoloau. I doubt he's going to be a bad football player. May not be an elite 10-sack guy a season. I just think he's going to be a guy year in, year out that's a reliable player. He's a team leader, team captain sort of dude. And for the Tennessee Titans, remember, Landry and also Arden Key going to last year of their contracts, getting a little bit older now too. Jaguars, Jonas Savaiinaea, offensive tackle at Arizona, played left and right tackle. I see him moving inside the guard, and for the Jaguars, absolutely need another guard with Brandon Sheriff. Gonna, maybe retire after this offseason or go somewhere else. Definitely possibly on the table there, but they find the other guy, running mate at guard with Ezra Cleveland and Mitch Morse at the center position. Raiders go Amarian Hampton, North Carolina running back. They need a runner, right? They need a dynamic runner in their room. They were going through different guys this season with Sincere McCormick, Zeus, Alexander Madison. Just couldn't quite find that runner. Amarian Hampton would give that, and he's a good receiving back as well. He's not the most evasive dude, but he's got that one-cut ability, and he just goes north and south. He's got great athletic burst as well to hit the lane and go. New England, go Cameron Williams. He's going to be a developmental prospect, but tackle's a big area for this team, and you're not going to be able to just fill it probably with one free agency pickup. You're going to need some more help in the draft too. So I think Cameron Williams gives them that developmental upside. Michael Onwenu, remember, might be best to move him inside the guard. So Cameron Williams would be a right tackle, your true right tackle. You have Onwenu at right guard, and then maybe pick up a free agent left tackle. And Cole Strange comes back, either play center or left guard, and you figure some things out there. Overall, good pick for the Patriots. He needs, there's some work to be done with Cameron Williams. He's a little bit raw around the gills, but I think he'd be a nice developmental player for them. Chicago, Wyatt Millam, doubling up on their offensive line. I understand, and Chicago fans have been clamoring for this. Let's double up. They get Wyatt Millam, play him at center or guard is what they have him listed at. I wouldn't hate that. Wyatt Millam, you put him at guard or at center. I think that's a possibility. I also think Marcus Mbu would be a good selection here too. He could play center for this team as well. Definitely a couple of interesting options. Graze the Bell maybe end up being a center too for the long haul. A couple of interesting options for sure. Overall, double dip in the offensive line. I'm okay with that. Wyatt Millam's a good football player too. West Virginia, country roads, take me home to Chicago. On to the New Orleans Saints, Matthew Golden, adding another playmaker. He's going to be a big riser. And for good reason. I didn't actually expect him to come out this season. I had been mocking him throughout this portion in day 2. I think he's, the route running's there. The athleticism is there with this guy. The one knock on him will be the size. He doesn't have the biggest tremendous size, and getting off press coverage is going to be a little more difficult for him. He may be a slot-only type of guy at the next level. I think he can play on the outside as well. He's not shrimpy or anything. I'm not calling him a shrimp, but he is a good football player, and the Saints could use another weapon in that offense. Maybe get more of a big body guy. So that would be my only knockback. Maybe a Trey Harris, Eligai Manor would be an interesting option, but Golden is probably one of the best receivers at the point. Restrepo is also really good on the board. Landon Jackson to the Bears here with their other pick. They get another edge rusher into the room, so get some more defensive line talent because DeMarcus Walker's going to last year of his contract. You do have Austin Booker developing, but finding that one long-term running mate there with Montez Sweat and Austin Booker, I think makes a lot of sense. Landon Jackson could also play a little inside, give you a little versatility in those NASCAR packages. Let's move on here. What's this? Oh, Landon Jackson. Yeah, Landon Jackson's I can't wait to see him at the Senior Bowl going one-on-one with his size. What he actually looks like comparative to some of these offensive linemen and the other edge rushers will be fun to see. The Jets go Nick Emanwari. Really good pick here for the New York Jets. We'll see coaching-wise what they end up doing, but Nick Emanwari gives you a big safety in the room. He's got really good athleticism. He's not the most twitched-up guy, but he definitely has explosiveness. Really good burst, man, and he can cover some tight ends, which is, yeah, they could use that. They could use a safety in general. On to the 49ers, Walter Nolan. Great pick. Great move. Defensive line, go build up them trenches. They look at that interior of the defense line for the long haul because, hey, Malik Collins and Javon Hargrave, both getting older, both going into last year of their contract. Both of them you can get out. Malik Collins last year of his contract, I believe. Javon Hargrave might be the last year of his contract. I'm forgetting, but they can get out of his contract after this next season. So definitely could be looking at boosting up that interior with some youth. And then you get shot out of a cannon, Travion Henderson. I love that, dude. That is just, I love that call, Pat McAfee. That was awesome. Travion Henderson put himself on display, and I'm glad. He's so good, man. And he's one of those guys I feel like has been forgotten throughout this process. He has got elite speed, 4.3 level speed, and somebody with his size too. He's densely built, and he's a solid receiving weapon as well. He's a good pass protector. He's a willing pass protector. All those things there with Henderson. I think he's going to be a very, very quality running back in the NFL for a long time. Dallas Cowboys need that. They go back to Ohio State. They got their moment. It's like his Ezekiel Elliott moment for them, possibly in that Texas game. So I really like Travion Henderson for the Cowboys here at 44. Great pick. Azaria Thomas, Florida State. He's another Senior Bowl cat. Watch out. He could make himself a lot of money with a good Senior Bowl showing. I think he could be a first-round pick when it's all said and done. But for the Indianapolis Colts, they love them size guys. They love them athletic dudes. Azaria Thomas is both. He checks the boxes on both of those categories. I think he's going to run 4.4. He's tall, 6'2", 190 range. He needs to get a little stronger with his tackling. I think that was the biggest gripe that I personally saw when I did my scouting report. But I love his coverage one-on-one, one of the better ones in this class. Jahdae Barron, Texas Hook'em Horns, and they go get themselves a playmaker in the slot. Huge need for them. D. Alford's been picked on throughout the entirety of the season, especially if they want to continue to play more zone coverage. Jahdae Barron is an ideal scenario for this Atlanta Falcons team. He would be a plug-and-play dude in the slot and could even play a little safety for them if they wanted, but great pick. I just don't have, personally, I would do this if he was on the board. He's just not around when I'm doing mock drafts typically for the Falcons, but I could see him going in the second round because of those traits. He just doesn't have the crazy athleticism some of these other guys have. On to the Arizona Cardinals, Prince Umayyalon. Simple as that. Get some more pass rush. They double dip the defensive line. You get that interior player with Derek Harmon in the first. You get Prince Umayyalon in the second. I like Ezeraku a lot in this range. There's some interesting pass rushers. Kyle Kennard, Brendan Switzen's a guy I like a lot. He's a guy I'm going to be doing a scouting report on here soon. Good football player. Keep an eye on all those dudes, but pass rush. The Miami Dolphins, Harold Fanning Jr. Oh, this is one that I did. I actually like this one a ton. Miami, you develop him for a season by Jonnu Smith. He ends up being your elite tight end one of the future. Perfect addition for Mike McDaniel and his offense. Man, if that happens, I'm going to be scared as a Jets fan. I'll just put it that way. Jets, you know what? I would just say go draft Harold Fanning Jr. so that way the Dolphins can't get him. Bengals, Marcus Bowe from Purdue. Great pick. And, I would say he'd end up being maybe the center of the long haul. I don't know. That's an interesting one, though. I kind of view Bowe as more of a center or a tackle prospect. I don't know if his strength profile is good enough for the guard position, so that would be my only pushback on this pick, is maybe I'd want more of a true guard, like a Tate Ratledge or a Dylan Fairchild type for the Bengals in their play style. So Bowe would more than likely be either a tackle for me or a center, especially for the Bengals, and for any team, really. I just think that would be, unless it's more of a wide zone system. But I do like Bowe a lot. And Purdue, boiler up. Let's go. Deone Walker, Seattle Seahawks. They go get themselves a big fella on that interior defensive line. I think that's a great pick for this team. He could be a developmental one tech for them. You still have you can bring back Jaron Reed for another season. And Deone Walker can be a great developmental big man for that front. And yeah, next to Big Cat too. Oh man. And then obviously Byron Murphy. That's a defensive line that it's super scary. Mason Taylor, LSU. Great tight end. He's another one of those guys after the Senior Bowl could be a first-round prospect when it's all said and done. There's just not many things to not like about Mason Taylor. There really aren't. He's clutch. He's a good blocker, willing blocker. I mean, he still can get stronger and whatnot. He's got great, reliable hands, solid route runner, fluid athlete. Yeah, he's just going to be a good football player, man. I could see him being the best tight end when it's all said and done in this class. Denver, they need a reliable weapon. You'll get one in Ashton Genty in the run game. Now you get one in the pass game in Mason Taylor. Pittsburgh Steelers, Maxwell Harrison, Kentucky cornerback. He's super fluid. I'll give him that. I need to see more from Maxwell Harrison. He's another guy I'm going to keep my eyes out on the Senior Bowl. Like, that's going to be a big checkbox for me when it comes to Maxwell Harrison. But he can definitely be another big addition for the Steeler defense, which needs some more influx of corners. We go on here. We're getting towards the end of this draft. Carson Switzer. I just did this one yesterday for my mock draft with the Buccaneers. Great move. Love it. His athletic profile. He's another guy, Senior Bowl cat, that we're going to get to see. There's so many fun players at the Senior Bowl this year. This is going to be maybe one of the best years for the Senior Bowl ever. I really think so, man. But Switzer, great pick to be that hopefully heir apparent for Levante David, as tough as that's going to be if he retires after this season. Just give him a lifetime contract. Keep playing. Jordan Burch, edge rusher / interior player. He's a Packer player type of player. I'm not surprised by this one. This is one that I could totally see the Packers going after. And I think Jordan Burch is being underrated in general in this draft class. He is a really good football player. And yes, they got Mateo Uyunglele. Watch out for him next season. You got guys like Derek Harmon, Jamari Caldwell, etc. on that defense line for Oregon. But Jordan Burch, when he was out there on the football field, he made his impact known. He's strong, he's athletic, and he is going to be a great prospect for whoever gets him. I can't wait to see where Burch goes. They can use more rotation off the edge, especially after losing Preston Smith. I like more of a speed guy. Maybe a Donovan Ezeraku would be fun too. For me, with Jeff Hafley and coming, in there as your DC. Josiah Stewart from Michigan. Going to be another addition for the Chargers. Makes a ton of sense. Go back-to-back Wolverines. You know what I'm saying? They need to add more edge rushers too. Khalil Mack, Joey Bosa getting older. Mack's a free agent, so I expect that he's going to have to go somewhere else. Just contract-wise, it's going to be a little tricky. Donovan Ezeraku for the Bills, great pick. You get yourself an understudy for Von Miller. He can be a situational player early on in his career. You let him develop, get a little stronger with his play strength. He's another one of these guys that knows how to use his hands, knows how to put together a string of pass rush moves. I am a really big fan of Donovan Ezeraku, and ultimately, if nothing else, I think he's going to be like a Boye Mafe for whoever gets him and just be a really good player. Carolina, Alfred Collins. It makes the sense. Like, they do need a one tech on that defensive line. Well, not necessarily. You got Derek Brown. I think you could probably use more of like another pass rushing specialist on that defensive line. So I don't like this one. I'll be honest. I'm not a huge fan of this pick. Personally, in terms of who's still on the board, like TJ Sanders, I'd look at him, or even Omar Norman Lott if I'm going interior defensive line. So that would be my one pushback. Safety is a big need for this team. Maybe even another cornerback. Now they've had a run on corners. So if you're not high on Trey Amos, then that's fine. Offensively wise, you get another wide receiver. You could take a look at Xavier Restrepo, would be a nice addition for this team. So that's kind of my pushback. Alfred Collins, good football player, just don't really like the situation here for the Carolina Panthers. Houston, Trey Harris, good football player. He doesn't have crazy athleticism, but he's got great body control, catches pretty much any. Yeah, he did have a couple of drops at the end of the season, I did see, but really good player, and I think he's going to be a nice addition. Another big body there with Nico Collins on the outside. Jahad Campbell falls to the Ravens. What? How do you let this happen, Dane? That would be insane. Like, that's just too much speed. Like, that's too much speed at the linebacker position for them. And he would play edge. Like, I legit think that the Ravens would turn him into an edge rusher, which I'm okay with doing. NFL teams could certainly look at Jahad Campbell and say he's an edge rusher. I think his tape's first round level this season. Now, I know it's a little bit of a limited sample size, only one, real full season as a full-time starter, but I like Campbell a lot. I would take him even over Jalen Walker. Maybe I'm in the norm on that, but I think Campbell is so talented. I think he's the better coverage linebacker too between him and Jalen Walker. He feels things a lot better in the back end behind him, moving backwards and stuff like that. So I'm comfortable in playing him off the ball even as a traditional linebacker. He's got tremendous size where he could even play off the edge if he wanted to. So Ravens, this would be an unbelievable pick. I also actually think the Ravens could use a little bit more pass rush in general, whether it's defensive line or edge rusher, etc. They do have Aziz Isaac. Maybe he can make more of an impact next season as he gets going. On to the Commanders, though. Alec Manor. Yeah, you get another weapon on the outside. So you got Mike Green and Alec Manor. He's a big-time threat and somebody that just kind of underutilized because of the quarterback play to at Stanford. It's a little up and down at times in that offense. We will see him at the Senior Bowl as well, I believe. I don't quote me on that. I forget if he was on the list. Overall, though, Alec Manor, we'll see how he tests at the combine, too. I think he could definitely get some eyes on him. Big-time size, big-time vertical ability with Jaden Daniels, too, in that go ball. It's a match I could see really making out really well. So let's finish up this draft here. Buffalo Bills, Xavier Watts, safety, A+. I was just talking earlier about getting a safety. Watts is exactly what this team needs, is a playmaker in that back end. Really good move. On to the Eagles here. They get Greg Zabel from North Dakota State. Zabel's a good player. I like him. It's an interesting one because they have him listed center/guard, which, I don't necessarily disagree with, but it's like the Eagles, out of all the needs, that right guard position could be up for granted. Obviously, center-wise, you're with Cam Jurgen, you're good to go, the Beef Jurgens. But at the right guard position, Steen, I'm still not sold on, so maybe he develops in the right guard of the future. Who knows? You got Mekhi Becton on that one-year deal playing right guard currently. A lot of interesting scenarios. You right tackle of the future. Maybe Zabel can end up being the right tackle of the future. So a lot of things to think about with that one. I'm going to have to continue to ponder that one. I don't know if I love it, but offensive line's a good pick. And as I talk about, that right guard position is still up for grabs, in my opinion. Chiefs, Jaden Higgins. This is a pick that I did, I think, yesterday as well in my mock draft. Great move. You get another big-bodied playmaker on the... Well, not another, but they need a big-bodied playmaker on the outside. I think Higgins is a really good scenario. Him, Raji Rice, and Xavier Worthy gives you a little bit of everything. You got your yak slot machine in Raji. You have your speed threat with Xavier Worthy, and then you got your big-bodied outside target with Jaden Higgins. And then finally, and he's also going to be at the Senior Bowl too, so we'll see how well he moves and what his separation. Like, that's going to be the big thing for him. How does he separate? Final pick, the Detroit... Okay. Detroit Lions, you won the draft. It's over. You win the draft. I'm going to stop it. If you get Benjamin Morrison in the second round, I will personally I will go out, get in a car, and I will drive up to Detroit, and I will go to the stadium, and I will just cheer on. I will cheer on. That would be unreal, in my opinion. Maybe Dane's just lower on him. Personally, I'm sticking to my guns on Benjamin Morrison. I believe he's a top 10 player in the class. And you're getting him here at 64. Yes, that hip injury is going to be something you have to look at. But Morrison, if you lose Carlton Davis, I'm okay with that because Morrison comes in as a day one impact with Terry and Arnold. I think he'll be their best corner as a rookie. Oh my gosh, that's a dream. So that is the best pick of the draft in terms of value in this class. Well, we finished off on a banger with Dane Brugler, the athletic man. I had so much fun with this one. Dane Brugler never disappoints. I hope you guys have a really good day. Let me know what you think about this mock draft. Agree or disagree. What would you do differently with the burglar? I hope you guys have a good one. And which picks are you stealing?